Let me tell you about the day a basketball legend's humility taught everyone a powerful lesson. Comment where you're watching from today, because this story about Larry Bird will leave you speechless. It was a crisp autumn evening at the prestigious Thompson Convention Center in Boston, where the annual New England Business Excellence Awards were being held. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm glow over the marble floors, and the air was thick with the scent of expensive perfumes and carefully curated hors d'oeuvres. Men and women in designer suits and evening gowns mingled throughout the grand ballroom, their quiet conversations punctuated by occasional bursts of refined laughter. Among the guests was Michael Pearson, a newly appointed executive who had recently taken over his father's successful real estate empire. Known for his arrogance and dismissive attitude toward those he considered beneath him, Michael carried himself with an air of entitled superiority that made even the other wealthy attendees uncomfortable. The event staff moved efficiently through the crowd, ensuring everything ran smoothly. One particular maintenance worker caught Michael's attention, a tall, slightly hunched figure in simple work clothes, quietly going about his business. The man's weathered face and unassuming demeanor made him blend in with the background, just another member of the invisible workforce that kept these prestigious events running. As the maintenance worker approached a display that needed adjusting, Michael was holding court with a group of young entrepreneurs, including Thomas Grant and Patricia Vincent, who were eagerly seeking his approval. The tall worker carefully began straightening a banner that had come loose, his movements deliberate and focused. Michael, seeing an opportunity to demonstrate his supposed superiority, raised his voice just loud enough for those nearby to hear. "You know," he said, smirking at his companions, "some people just know their place in life. Take our friend here, for example." He gestured toward the maintenance worker with his champagne glass. "Probably never amounted to much, but at least he's useful for something." Thomas and Patricia exchanged uncomfortable glances, but Michael continued, encouraged by his own voice. "Hey buddy," he called out to the worker. "Make sure you get that nice and straight. Wouldn't want to embarrass the fine establishment, would we?" The tall man turned slowly, his blue eyes calm and steady. He didn't respond immediately, simply regarding Michael with a quiet dignity that somehow made the executive shift slightly in his expensive leather shoes. The silence stretched for a moment, drawing the attention of nearby guests. Just then, William Turner, the event organizer, rushed over with a look of horror on his face. "Oh my God, Mr. Bird! I am so sorry, I had no idea you were here already." The maintenance worker, none other than Larry Bird himself, gave William a small, knowing smile. The color drained from Michael's face as the realization hit him. The maintenance worker he'd been mocking was actually the evening's guest of honor, the legendary Larry Bird, who had arrived early and, true to his famous down-to-earth nature, had simply started helping out when he noticed something needed fixing. William turned to address the now-growing crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen, for those who don't know, we're incredibly honored to have Larry Bird with us tonight. He's not just a basketball legend but also a brilliant businessman and philanthropist who's helped countless small businesses in New England get their start." The murmurs spread through the crowd as people began to recognize the NBA Hall of Famer. Robert Thompson, a veteran business owner, stepped forward with an outstretched hand. "Larry, I can't thank you enough for the mentorship program you started. My daughter's tech company wouldn't exist without your foundation's support." Linda Walsh, another successful entrepreneur in the crowd, added, "Mr. Bird's investment in rural communities has created thousands of jobs. He never seeks the spotlight, but his impact on our region's economy is unprecedented." Michael Pearson stood frozen, his earlier bravado evaporated completely. His young admirers had already distanced themselves, looking anywhere but at him. Larry Bird, however, maintained his characteristic grace under pressure. "You know," Larry said, his voice quiet but carrying across the now hushed room, "I learned a long time ago that the real measure of success isn't in how you treat people who can do something for you. It's in how you treat everyone else." He paused, his gaze steady. "And sometimes the person you're looking down on today might be the same person you'll need to look up to tomorrow." The wisdom in those words hung heavy in the air. Several people nodded in agreement, while others cast disapproving glances at Michael. Douglas Mitchell, a senior board member of several corporations, stepped forward. Larry's absolutely right. I've been in business for 40 years, and I've learned that character reveals itself in how you treat every single person you meet. William Turner seized the moment to make an announcement. Actually, this is the perfect time to share something. The reason Mr. Bird is our guest of honor tonight isn't just because of his legendary sports career or his business success. We're recognizing him for creating the largest private small business grant program in New England history, focusing specifically on helping maintenance workers, service staff, and other hardworking individuals start their own businesses. The irony of Michael's earlier comments wasn't lost on anyone. Angela Powell, a successful restaurateur who had started as a dishwasher, spoke up. Mr. Bird's program gave me my first break when no bank would look at my business plan. Now I employ over 200 people across 5 locations. Larry Bird's humility remained evident as he tried to deflect the attention. The real heroes are the hard workers who take these opportunities and make something of them. I just remember what it was like growing up without much, watching my mother work multiple jobs to keep food on the table. Success means nothing if you forget where you came from. Michael Pearson, attempting to salvage some dignity, stepped forward with an extended hand. Mr. Bird, I apologize. I was completely out of line. Larry looked at the offered hand for a moment before accepting it. No hard feelings, he said simply. But maybe next time you see someone working hard, regardless of their job, remember that dignity isn't given by position, it's earned by character. The evening proceeded with Larry Bird sharing stories of people he'd helped, former janitors who now own successful cleaning companies, maintenance workers who had built thriving repair businesses, and service staff who had opened their own restaurants. Each tale emphasized the same theme: success isn't about where you start but how you treat others along the way. As the event drew to a close, Larry's presence had transformed what could have been just another business awards ceremony into a powerful lesson in humility and respect. The story of how he had quietly arrived early and started helping with setup, only to be mistaken for maintenance staff, would be told and retold in Boston's business circles for years to come. Before leaving, Larry had one final message for the gathered crowd. You know, back in my playing days, I learned that the most important part of any team wasn't the star player, it was everyone else who made the game possible. The same is true in business. Success isn't a solo act, it's built on the foundation of every person who shows up and works hard, regardless of their title. The evening ended with spontaneous applause, not for Larry Bird the basketball legend, but for Larry Bird the humble leader who had turned an uncomfortable moment into a lasting lesson about respect, dignity, and the true meaning of success. As guests departed, many were overhead sharing similar sentiments. How a simple act of helping to fix a banner, combined with an uncommon display of grace in the face of disrespect, had demonstrated more about leadership than any business seminar ever could. Later that week, Michael Pearson made headlines of his own, establishing a scholarship program for service workers' children and implementing a company-wide policy ensuring respectful treatment of all staff, regardless of position. Sometimes the most powerful lessons come from our most humbling moments. If this story touched you, share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Have you ever been underestimated or judged by your appearance? Let us know in the comments below. And remember, true character isn't about how high you've climbed, it's about how many people you've lifted up along the way. The story of Larry Bird's encounter at the Thompson Convention Center spread rapidly through social media, but what happened in the following days would prove even more remarkable. As news outlets began picking up the story, they uncovered a pattern of quiet generosity that had gone unnoticed for years. Jennifer Woods, a local reporter, decided to dig deeper into Larry Bird's impact on the community. She discovered that the basketball legend had been secretly mentoring service workers and maintenance staff across New England for over a decade, helping them transform their lives through education and entrepreneurship. At the Madison Square Garden, where Bird had played some of his most memorable games, she met with Robert Fletcher, a former custodian who now owned a successful facilities management company. "I was mopping the floors one night after a charity event," Robert recalled, when Mr. Bird walked in. "Instead of just passing by like most celebrities, he stopped and asked about my dreams. That conversation changed my life. The investigation revealed that Larry had established a network of successful business owners who had started from humble beginnings. These entrepreneurs, in turn, helped others rise through the ranks, creating a ripple effect of opportunity and mentorship. Among them was Michelle Edwards, a former hotel housekeeper who now operated a chain of eco-friendly cleaning services. "What makes Mr. Bird different," Michelle explained, "is that he never wanted recognition. He taught us that true leadership isn't about being in the spotlight, it's about lighting the way for others." Her company now employed over 300 people, many of whom were pursuing their own business dreams with her support. The story took an unexpected turn when William Parker, a prominent business consultant, came forward with his own revelation. 20 years ago, I was working as a parking attendant to put myself through night school. Larry Bird would often chat with me about business strategies while I parked his car. He even helped review my business plans, but made me promise never to tell anyone until he gave permission. As these stories emerged, they painted a picture of a man who had never forgotten his humble beginnings. Larry's childhood in French Lick, Indiana, watching his mother struggle to make ends meet, had instilled in him a deep respect for working people. This respect manifested in countless small acts of kindness that had gone unnoticed by the media. Kevin Davis, a former security guard turned successful restaurateur, shared how Bird had helped him secure his first business loan. "He didn't just write a recommendation, he sat with me for hours, reviewing every detail of my business plan. He taught me that success isn't just about having a good idea, it's about understanding every aspect of your business from the ground up." The impact of Bird's mentorship became even more apparent when Crystal Johnson, a city council member, revealed the economic data. In the past 15 years, businesses started through Larry's mentorship program have created over 10,000 jobs in New England. The remarkable part is that 80% of these business owners came from service or maintenance backgrounds. At a small diner in Boston's working-class neighborhood, Elizabeth Martinez, a former dishwasher who now owned the establishment, shared her story. "Mr. Bird would come in regularly when I was working late shifts. He never acted like a celebrity, he'd just sit at the counter, drink coffee, and ask about my dreams. When I mentioned wanting to own my own place someday, he started teaching me about business operations right there between washing dishes." The ripple effect of Bird's mentorship extended beyond individual success stories. Thomas Wilson, an economic researcher, found that businesses started through Bird's program had a 75% higher survival rate than the national average. "The key difference," Thomas explained, "is that these entrepreneurs understand every aspect of their industry from the ground up. They've done every job themselves, so they know how to build sustainable businesses." Larry's approach to mentorship was uniquely hands-on. Angela Henderson, who had worked as a janitor before starting her own commercial cleaning company, remembered how Bird would occasionally grab a mop and clean alongside her. "He told me that good leaders never ask their team to do something they wouldn't do themselves. That lesson shaped how I run my company today." The story gained further dimension when Michael Pearson, the executive who had initially dismissed Bird at the convention center, took unprecedented steps to change his company's culture. "Meeting Larry Bird showed me how wrong I'd been," Michael admitted. "We've now implemented a company-wide mentorship program pairing executives with maintenance and service staff. The insights flowing both ways have transformed our business." Jason Thompson, a business ethics professor, pointed out the broader implications of Bird's approach. "What Larry Bird created isn't just a mentorship program, it's a new model of business leadership." He showed that the most valuable insights often come from people society tends to overlook. The investigation uncovered dozens more success stories. There was Patricia Ramirez, a former hotel maid who now ran a hospitality consulting firm, David Morrison, who had gone from fixing vending machines to owning a successful distribution company, and Karen Phillips, whose journey from office cleaner to real estate developer had inspired countless others. Each story shared common elements: Bird's quiet guidance, his insistence on understanding every aspect of the business, and his emphasis on treating every person with respect. But perhaps most striking was his requirement that each successful mentee help others rise up the ladder. Christopher Walker, a sociology professor studying economic mobility, noted the multiplicative effect of Bird's approach. By choosing men who understood the challenges of working-class life, he created a network of business leaders who naturally empathize with and support their employees. This has led to more sustainable business practices and stronger communities. The impact became even clearer when Jennifer Woods visited the Thompson Convention Center again, this time to interview the current maintenance staff. She found that many were enrolled in business courses or developing their own business plans, inspired by the recent events. Among them was Daniel Hayes, who had already started a small cleaning service with guidance from previous months of Bird's program. As the story continued to unfold, it revealed an intricate web of support and opportunity that Bird had quietly built over decades. Richard Newman, a business historian, observed that this network had fundamentally changed the economic landscape of New England. What's remarkable isn't just the number of successful businesses created, but how they've changed traditional power structures in the business world. Larry Bird's response to all this attention remained characteristically humble. When finally reached for comment, he simply said, "Success means nothing if you don't use it to help others succeed. I learned that from watching my mother, who never had much but always found ways to help our neighbors. These folks did all the hard work themselves. I just opened a few doors." The story's impact continued to grow as business schools began studying Bird's mentorship model. Brandon Curtis, a professor at a leading business school, developed a case study, showing how Bird's approach had created more sustainable and socially responsible businesses. These entrepreneurs succeed because they understand both the operational and human aspects of their industries, Brandon explained. This deeper understanding of Bird's impact added new context to the convention center incident. It wasn't just about a humble legend being mistaken for maintenance staff. It was about a man who had spent decades proving that true success comes from lifting others up, regardless of their starting point. As this chapter of the story concluded, it became clear that Larry Bird's greatest legacy might not be his basketball career, but rather the quiet revolution he had sparked in the business world. His vision of leadership, based on respect, understanding, and helping others rise, was transforming how people thought about success. Have you ever had someone believe in you when others didn't? Share your story in the comments below. And remember, sometimes the people who change the world do it so quietly that we almost miss it, until their example inspires others to speak up. The ripple effects of Larry Bird's convention center moment and the subsequent revelations about his quiet mentorship program began to transform workplace cultures across America. This third chapter reveals how a single act of humility sparked a national movement that would challenge traditional notions of corporate hierarchy and success. The story took an unexpected turn when Gregory Jackson, CEO of a Fortune 500 company, announced a radical restructuring of his corporation inspired by Bird's example. For years, we've been promoting people based on credentials while overlooking the wisdom that comes from ground-level experience, Gregory explained. After hearing about Larry Bird's approach, we decided to revolutionize our leadership development program. Jackson's company began requiring all executive candidates to spend time working alongside maintenance and service staff, learning the business from the ground up. The results were immediate and striking. Michelle Hammond, the company's HR director, reported a 40% increase in employee satisfaction and a 25% reduction in turnover within the first 6 months. The transformation caught the attention of Robert Manning, a workplace culture expert, who began studying what he called the Bird effect. His research revealed that companies adopting similar approaches were seeing unprecedented improvements in both productivity and employee well-being. What Larry Bird understood, Manning noted, was that true business wisdom often comes from the people closest to the day-to-day operations. Meanwhile, at the Thompson Convention Center, the changes were even more dramatic. William Turner had implemented a revolutionary new management structure where maintenance and service staff were included in all major decision-making processes. Who better to advise on facility improvements than the people who work in every corner of this building every day? Turner explained. The convention center's new approach led to innovative solutions that had eluded traditional management. Linda Webster, a longtime maintenance worker, had devised a new system for event setup that reduced costs by 30% while improving worker safety. For the first time, she said, we felt our experience and ideas were truly valued. The movement gained further momentum when Angela Ballard, a former hotel housekeeper turned business consultant, began conducting workshops based on Bird's mentorship principles. Her program, Leadership from the Ground Up, quickly became the most sought-after corporate training in New England. What makes Larry Bird's approach so powerful, Angela explained during a packed seminar, is that it recognizes that leadership isn't about titles or degrees, it's about understanding every aspect of your business and respecting every person who contributes to its success. The impact spread to educational institutions when Christopher Curtis, dean of a prestigious business school, announced a complete overhaul of their MBA program. We're now requiring all students to complete internships in service and maintenance roles before they can graduate. Larry Bird showed us that understanding a business from the ground up is essential to effective leadership. The story took another significant turn when Michael Pearson, the executive who had initially dismissed Bird at the convention center, emerged as one of the movement's most passionate advocates. His company's transformation became a case study in corporate culture change. I used to think leadership was about authority and status, Pearson reflected during a TEDx talk that went viral. Larry Bird taught me that true leadership is about understanding, respect, and lifting others up. Now, some of our most innovative ideas come from our maintenance and service teams. The movement's impact became even more apparent when Jennifer Woods, the reporter who had initially investigated Bird's mentorship program, discovered a pattern of similar initiatives sprouting up across the country. In Seattle, Thomas Gonzalez had started a program helping janitors become entrepreneurs. In Miami, Patricia Reynolds was transforming hotel workers into successful business owners. But it was in Boston, where the story had begun, that the most remarkable changes were taking place. The city had launched an innovative economic development program based on Bird's mentorship model. Robert Steele, the program director, explained its success. We're not just creating business owners, we're creating mentors who understand the value of every person's contribution. The program's first year saw the launch of over 50 new businesses, all started by former service and maintenance workers. Among them was David Harrison, a former janitor who had developed a revolutionary cleaning technology. Larry Bird's story gave me the courage to believe in myself, Harrison said. Now I'm not just running a successful business, I'm helping others achieve their dreams too. The transformation extended to corporate boardrooms, where companies began actively recruiting directors with ground-level experience. Elizabeth Norris, who had worked her way up from maintenance staff to corporate leadership, explained the value of this approach. When you've done every job in a building, you understand your business in a way no amount of theoretical knowledge can teach. Larry Bird's influence even reached Silicon Valley, where tech companies began rethinking their approach to innovation. James Walton, a prominent tech CEO, implemented a program requiring software developers to spend time working in customer service and facility maintenance. It completely changed how we design our products, Walton noted. We're now creating solutions that truly serve everyone's needs. The movement's impact on workplace culture was documented by Dr. Catherine Foster, a sociologist studying organizational behavior. Her research showed that companies adopting Bird's principles saw significant improvements in innovation, employee satisfaction, and customer service. What we're seeing, she explained, is a fundamental shift in how we think about expertise and leadership. Back at the Thompson Convention Center, the annual Business Excellence Awards had been transformed. The most prestigious honor was now the Larry Bird Leadership Award, given to business leaders who demonstrated exceptional commitment to mentoring and elevating service workers. The first recipient was Michelle Peters, a former cleaning staff supervisor who had built a multi-million-dollar sustainable cleaning products company while helping dozens of others start their own businesses. The story's influence continued to grow when Douglas Richardson, a filmmaker, began documenting the lives of people impacted by Bird's approach. His documentary, From the Ground Up, featured interviews with successful entrepreneurs who had started in maintenance and service roles. The film became a sensation, inspiring similar movements in countries around the world. Perhaps the most powerful testament to the movement's impact came from Lisa Thompson, a current maintenance worker at the convention center. The way people treat us has completely changed, she explained. Now, when executives visit, they ask for our input and value our experience. Larry Bird didn't just change how people see us, he changed how we see ourselves. The transformation of workplace culture had begun to reshape economic opportunities across the country. Ryan Martinez, an economist studying social mobility, found that cities adopting Bird's principles saw significant increases in small business creation and economic diversity. What's remarkable, Martinez noted, is how this approach creates sustainable economic growth while building stronger communities. Throughout all these changes, Larry Bird maintained his characteristic humility. When asked about his impact during a rare interview, he simply said, "Success isn't about rising above others, it's about bringing everyone up with you. That's something my mother taught me long before I ever picked up a basketball." As this chapter of the story concluded, it was clear that Bird's legacy had grown far beyond his athletic achievements. He had sparked a movement that was redefining success, leadership, and opportunity in American business. His simple act of helping to fix a banner at a convention center had evolved into a national conversation about dignity, respect, and the true meaning of leadership. Have you witnessed a positive change in workplace culture? Share your experience in the comments below. And remember, sometimes the most powerful leadership lessons come from the most unexpected places. 1 year after the convention center incident, the impact of Larry Bird's humble leadership had created a transformation that no one could have predicted. This final chapter reveals how a simple moment of genuine humility revolutionized not just American business culture, but sparked a global movement that would redefine success for generations to come. The story's global reach began when Richard Freeman, a visiting executive from London, witnessed the changes at the Thompson Convention Center firsthand. Amazed by the innovative management structure and inclusive culture, he brought the concept back to Europe, launching what would become known as the Bird Initiative across the United Kingdom. Within months, companies from Tokyo to Toronto were implementing similar programs. Michelle Rodriguez, a corporate culture consultant who had studied the movement's spread, observed, "What makes Larry Bird's approach so universal is that it taps into fundamental human values, respect, dignity, and the recognition that everyone's contribution matters." The transformation reached new heights when the World Economic Forum in Davos dedicated an entire session to what they called the Bird Principle. Thomas Howard, a leading economist, presented research showing that companies adopting Bird's leadership model were outperforming traditional corporations by significant margins. "The data is undeniable," Howard explained to the gathered world leaders and executives. "When companies value and learn from their maintenance and service staff, they see increased innovation, better customer satisfaction, and stronger financial performance." Larry Bird didn't just create a mentorship program, he discovered a more effective way of doing business. Back in Boston, the ripple effects continued to grow. Jennifer Butler, who had started as a dishwasher and now owned a successful restaurant chain, launched a global mentorship network connecting service workers with business opportunities. Larry Bird showed us that success isn't about where you start, it's about helping others along the way, she explained during the network's launch. The movement gained further momentum when Michael Pearson, the executive whose encounter with Bird had sparked it all, partnered with William Turner to create the Global Service Leadership Institute. The institute's mission was to identify and support service workers with entrepreneurial potential, providing them with resources, education, and mentorship. Robert Matthews, a former maintenance worker who became one of the institute's first success stories, developed an innovative facilities management system that was adopted by companies worldwide. "What Mr. Bird taught us," Matthews shared, "was that the people doing the work often have the best solutions. We just needed someone to listen." The transformation of workplace culture began to attract attention from unexpected quarters. Dr. Elizabeth Harrison, a prominent psychologist, conducted a groundbreaking study on the mental health impacts of the Bird Principle. Her findings showed significant reductions in workplace stress and improved overall well-being in companies that had adopted the approach. "What we're seeing," Harrison explained, "is that when people feel valued and heard, regardless of their position, it creates a positive ripple effect throughout the entire organization. The Bird Principle isn't just good business, it's good for human health and happiness." The movement's impact on education was equally profound. Angela Thompson, dean of a major business school, revolutionized their curriculum by incorporating mandatory service work experience. We realized that understanding a business from the ground up isn't just helpful, it's essential to effective leadership, she explained. The story took another significant turn when the United Nations recognized the Bird Initiative as a model for sustainable economic development. Christopher Wilson, a UN economic advisor, noted, "What Larry Bird created is a blueprint for inclusive economic growth that lifts people up while creating stronger businesses and communities." In Silicon Valley, the transformation was particularly dramatic. Technology companies began actively recruiting maintenance and service workers into their development teams. Lisa Martinez, a former janitor turned user experience designer, explained the impact. "We're now creating technology that truly serves everyone because we understand the needs of all users, not just the tech-savvy." The movement's influence extended to popular culture when David Reynolds, a renowned filmmaker, released The Bird Effect, a documentary chronicling the global impact of Bird's leadership philosophy. The film featured stories from 6 continents, showing how the principles of respect, humility, and inclusive leadership were transforming businesses and communities worldwide. Perhaps the most powerful testament to the movement's impact came from unexpected quarters. Patricia Newman, a sociology professor studying economic mobility, found that regions adopting the Bird principle showed significant improvements in social equality and economic opportunity. "What we're seeing," she explained, "is that when businesses value and invest in all their workers, entire communities begin to thrive." The transformation even reached the highest levels of government. Thomas Gardner, a senior economic advisor, implemented policies incentivizing companies to adopt Bird's principles. "We've found that businesses following this model not only perform better financially but also contribute more positively to their communities," Gardner noted. Back at the Thompson Convention Center, where it all began, the changes were profound and lasting. The annual Business Excellence Awards had been completely reimagined. Now, alongside traditional business achievements, they celebrated stories of workers at all levels who had innovated, mentored, and lifted others up. Michael Pearson, reflecting on the year since his encounter with Bird, had become a different kind of leader. His company now boasted one of the most diverse executive teams in the industry, with former service workers holding key leadership positions. "Larry Bird taught me that true leadership isn't about status or power, it's about recognizing and nurturing potential in everyone," he shared. The global impact of Bird's humble leadership continued to multiply through what became known as the legacy effect. Each person who succeeded through the Bird principle became a mentor to others, creating an ever-expanding network of opportunity and support. Robert Foster, an economist studying the phenomenon, estimated that the movement had helped launch over 100,000 new businesses worldwide within its first year. Throughout all of this, Larry Bird maintained his characteristic humility. When finally persuaded to speak at a global leadership conference, his message was simple but powerful. "Success isn't measured by how high you climb, it's measured by how many people you bring with you. Every person has value, every job has dignity, and every voice deserves to be heard." The conference culminated in the announcement of the Larry Bird Global Initiative, a worldwide program designed to identify and support service workers with entrepreneurial potential. The initiative, funded by a coalition of successful businesses that had benefited from Bird's principles, pledged to help launch 1 million new businesses over the next decade. As the movement continued to grow, its impact extended far beyond business. Communities began adopting the principles in schools, government agencies, and nonprofit organizations. The result was a fundamental shift in how society viewed success, leadership, and human potential. Jessica Thompson, a cultural anthropologist studying the movement, observed, "What Larry Bird initiated isn't just a business philosophy, it's a paradigm shift in how we value human dignity and potential." His legacy will be felt for generations to come. The story of Larry Bird's impact had come full circle. What began as a moment of mistaken identity at a convention center had sparked a global revolution in how we think about leadership, success, and human dignity. His simple act of helping to fix a banner had shown the world that true greatness lies not in status or recognition, but in how we lift others up along our journey. Have you been part of a positive transformation in your workplace or community? Share your story in the comments below. And remember, sometimes the most powerful changes start with the simplest acts of kindness and respect.